Me, Matt here.
Good, Kyle.
You know what time it is.
Me, Matt's right through the night. Killing Daniel's got his size. Wheels of fury on the ground. Engine roaring in the sound. Feel the power, let it rise. With the battle in our eyes. Wheels of fury rolling strong. Together we will carry on.
Me, Matt here. This is Killer Kyle. Welcome to a new installment of Look Back at Your series, where we talk about 1989.
WrestleWar.
Yes, sir.
WA WrestleWar.
Now, last time we talked about this, we were going to do 1989, which is the year Kyle was born.
Yes, sir.
And then next, we'll do 1984, the year I was born.
Exactly.
But yes, we are going to talk about WrestleWar,
Yeah.
which I believe took place in Nashville.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, the NWA was, well, before it transitioned into WCW, it was a really good organization. And, like, you look at people that were initially in NWA, like, during that time period, some of them were still with the company when it became world champions of wrestling. But a lot of them, went on to do other things or retire or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of names.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, that's just it. And, the 80s were like old school as you can get.
Yeah,
This is right before glitz and glamour and all that stuff. It was down and dirty. I mean, that's what WCW was basically all about.
oh yeah,
When you look at WWF, they're flashy, they're, well, sports entertainment, if you will.
right.
WCW was just down home, gritty and ground and pound and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, I wasn't necessarily a fan of WCW until I was much older,
Right.
like, well, way after it disbanded.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it, but it, to me, for some reason, I called it a knockoff of WWF. But, anyways, this was a really good show, though.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, let's get to it. Well, we start off with the Great Muta. Yeah, guess we've been saying it wrong all these years. With Gary Hart, who took on Doug Gilbert.
The younger brother of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert,
Yes, sir.
who we will see, well, the end of the show. Last match of the show, if you will.
You look at someone like the Great Muta, who in the 80s always came down the aisle with that ninja look, I guess. The vignettes were awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the 80s, too. Really, really good vignettes.
Yeah.
And so, this was a good match. I think that Great Muta beat the shit right out of Doug.
Yeah, it was basically a one-sided affair.
And won the match.
Yeah.
Of course, when he started the match, well, before it started anyways, he had the green mist.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he spit out red mist.
Yeah.
Not sure how that works to this day. But, yeah, I don't know too much about Doug. Obviously, I know more about his brother Eddie, so
I think Eddie wrestled a lot more than Doug did.
yeah.
Like, other than this match, I don't know of any other promotions Doug wrestled for.
Yeah, me neither.
So, Axel Butch Reed taking on Ranger Ross.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Ranger Ross,
Yeah,
except that people booed the shit out of him.
for some reason.
Yeah, because, I mean, he comes down the aisle, he's got the army get up, he's got the stars and stripes. You would think that people would cheer that, especially because the Cold War was happening.
Right.
But, nope. Fans like Butch Reed.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good back and forth.
Oh yeah. And like, it happened a few times where you had Teddy Long, Theodore Long, ringside for this match, and he made a few appearances during a few other matches. I think this was right around the time of the formation of Doom.
Yeah.
Doom was the tag team of Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. Of course, we all know Ron Simmons, the Florida State All-American, and had his number retired and holds however many records for Florida State, whatever. Then got into wrestling, and then of course Butch Reed. Don't know too much. Like, I've seen Butch wrestle a number of times.
Yeah.
Don't know too much about his background. I mean, he's from Kansas City. But, like, yeah.
Yeah.
They did say that Butch was a All-American as well, like college football, but like, so he played football for Missouri State, I would say. Or like,
Yeah.
their college.
Yeah. Butch Reed ended up going over,
Yeah.
but Ranger Ross had really good moves. I wish I knew more
Yeah.
about him. This is the first. But, yeah, fairly good match. I don't know where it went from here, but like Kyle said, Doom would have eventually came together and pretty dominant take team.
Yeah.
So, Butch passed away a while ago, and
Yeah.
but I'd love to see him and Ron back together
Oh, yeah, for sure.
at some point.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Ron Simmons and Teddy Long were WWE, so it was
Yes.
almost like Butch could have easily come back for one match at least.
Yeah. Definitely would have been interesting.
They got a ballroom match. Got Dick Murdoch versus the Ace, Cowboy Bob Orton.
Dick Murdoch?
No, I said Murdoch.
Sounded like you said Murdoch to me, bud.
Well, that's possible.
Dick Murdoch. Dirty Dick Murdoch versus the Cowboy.
Yeah.
The Ace Bob Orton Jr. In a somewhat physical match. They
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
used the cowbell, they did use the bull rope. They mainly, like, it wasn't a technical match by any stretch of the imagination. However, it was, like, we've seen other bull rope matches that were more brutal than this one.
Yeah, they didn't bleed,
No.
which was upsetting. But, yeah, I mean, they did beat the shit out of each other with that bell.
Yeah.
So, Dick ended up going over. And then after the match, he got a good ass kicking from Bob Orton.
Yeah.
Gary Hart. Yeah, Gary Hart, Bobby Heenan of the WCW.
Pretty much.
Well, Red Cells if you want to go there. But
Red Cells, yeah.
so I mean, yeah, he's beating him up. He wraps the rope around his neck and hangs him from the outside.
Yeah. So him over the top rope and hangs him. Even though I'm quite sure Dick's feet were on the floor
Yeah.
and he wasn't really getting choked out that bad.
No, it wasn't. It didn't look like it. That was the night Dick was hung.
The Dynamic Dudes, team of Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas, taking on the SST, the Samoa SWAT team. Fatu Sabu with Paulie Dangerously.
Yeah, that was a good team.
Oh yeah.
And you look at these two guys, and obviously the Samoan dynasty, or
Yeah.
I mean the NOI dynasty, if you will. Toughest motherfuckers in the wrestling business.
Oh yeah.
But that's the Samoan dynasty. Like, everyone in that island is fucking tough.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas. Like, Shane wasn't necessarily new to the business,
No.
but he was quite young,
Yeah.
and this was a pretty good match too. You obviously thought the Samoan SWAT team were gonna win, but
Yeah.
somehow the dynamic duo won.
Yes.
And then of course you have Paul Heyman saying something on the mic for some reason while the match was
Yeah.
going on.
You're as useless as the women here in Tennessee, or something along those lines. Like, okay, then.
But yeah, I talk about Shane Douglas being young. Paul Heyman,
Oh yeah.
the guy who's still wrestling to this day.
Wow.
Well, not wrestling, but managing.
Managing.
Like, guy who was in his 20s at this
Yes.
point, late 20s.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. And then, of course, like, going on to do the Dangerous Alliance.
Yep.
And then WWE with Brock Lesnar, the Big Show.
Kurt Angle.
Yep.
Team Angle. CM Punk. Roman Reigns. Yeah. The Bloodline. Matt Morgan.
Yeah. The Big Show.
Yeah. Countless others.
Yeah. And, still going at it at 60.
Yep.
I don't know how long he's gonna be a manager in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And he does other stuff, I know that. But just the kind of person that doesn't, like, stop.
No.
The guy who doesn't smoke, drink, or do drugs, yet he's like the hyperest person I've ever met. Or saw, rather.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays in his career, he's not quite as energetic
Right, yeah.
as he used to be and over the top again. Back then, he was. I mean, like you said, he was in his late 20s, so he could
Yeah.
bring the energy and just do whatever it took to make you hate him,
Oh, God, yeah.
or whoever he was managing.
Now we have a match for the U.S. Championship, the NWA U.S. Championship. P.S. Michael Hayes with Hiro Mansuda,
Yes, sir.
who took on Lex Luger.
The total package.
He,
And the interesting thing, like, initially I thought, oh, Hero is in the corner of Luger because Hiro Matsuda was the one that trained Luger.
yeah.
And then at one point see Michael Hayes go to the outside, and you see Matsuna go over and he's talking over to. Oh, he's with Mike. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. No, I didn't see much of this match. I was busy, so. But Michael Hayes ended up becoming the new U.S. champion,
Yes, sir.
which I'm not sure how long it lasted,
Yeah.
but shit, Michael Hayes, there's another guy
Oh,
that's
yeah.
still, well, he's not wrestling no more, and he hasn't in years.
But he's still very active in the wrestling business. He's a producer, I think, or whatever, for WWE.
Still young at heart,
Yeah.
but yeah. I mean, this guy, like, changed wrestling for the fact that they had theme music. I think they were one of the few wrestlers, staples rather, that had music coming down the aisle.
Yeah.
The Freebirds.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Lex Luger would go on to be in WWF for a couple of years, then go back to WCW. Two Hall of Famers
Yes.
in WWE, so that's cool.
Sure. What we have for the NWA World Television Championship, the Sticker taking on Cheeky Baby. Irish Sheik.
Yes, sir.
This was a fairly quick match.
Yeah. I mean, nothing like a coked up Sting beating the shit out of the Iron Sheik, making him humble. I don't think Sheik had one offense.
Well, Sheik got the jump on Sting
Oh, yeah.
before the belly rang, but then after that it was all Sting.
Yeah, this was cool. And of course, Sting would become one of the best wrestlers in WCW. A shame it didn't work out in WWE. I know I've said that a lot. A great career in AEW.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think he's come out of retirement, but he's definitely with Darby Allin.
Yeah, Sting's made a few appearances here and there.
So,
And of course, his son, well, one of his sons,
Yes.
just got involved in wrestling.
now we have the NWA World Heavyweight title. We got Ric Flair. Woo! Versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah. These two had many a great match against each other.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about two guys that knew how to pace a match.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that be slow down and, apply a whole, like an arm lock, a wrist lock, a head lock, a this, a that. And then, pick up the tempo chops and, this, that, and the other, then slow it down again. Just do various different things throughout the match, and different pacing, different tempo, but really keep the fans invested. They knew how to do it.
And I mean, these two guys were the definition of good versus bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have Ric Flair, the limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun.
Right.
You have Ricky Steamboat, the guy who's a family man, who knew right from wrong. And yeah, you definitely saw that in this match. I mean, you got Ricky Flair coming out with the women.
Yeah, all the ladies and this $10,000 plus robe.
Mm.
And he got Ricky, of course, covered out with his wife and his son. Son's riding on a pony.
A
Just-
white pony.
Yeah. Dressed head to toe in like a cowboy outfit with the really little. It was a guitar, anyways. And yeah, And then for this match, you had judges ringside in case, you know, time limit draw or a count or whatever you had. Lou Thesz, Pat O'Connor, and Terry Funk.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first time, well, I don't believe it was the first time. It wasn't all the time that you saw judges, you know, for a match.
Yeah.
But this was, like Kyle said, a classic.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, we got classic Ric Flair doing a knee to Ricky Steamboat, and which I thought was a heart of the race thing. But Ric Flair did that a lot too.
Yeah.
Of course, the figure four, and there was one point where he was jumping up and down the mat, which I hadn't seen before, at least to my knowledge. You know, Ricky Steamboat, a lot of Ricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Ricky Steamboat, you know, trying to get offense. Like, this was a really good match.
Yes.
And yeah, Ric Flair ended up going over with the same pin that Ricky Steamboat did to Savage at WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
Becoming a new champion. Of course, it was Jim Ross.
Jim Ross in the ring doing an interview with Rick and congratulating him, whatever. Then they got Terry Funk jumping in the ring. Hey, I want to congratulate you. Hey, I want to challenge you. Be the next one in line. And, you know, it's like, man, we got a championship committee. We got a top 10 contenders. You've been off in Hollywood for 5 years, making movies or whatever the hell Terry was doing at that point. But Terry's like, I'm just kidding. I didn't want to. Then Terry beat the shit out of Rick and pile drove him on the timekeeper's table.
Yeah, that's the thing. At that point, you didn't see that much in wrestling.
Yeah.
And got Terry, you know, Rick was buried under the table when Terry takes a chair and hits him right on the head, although I took a second glance at it when they showed it again. It didn't look like, I mean, it made contact with him, but not that much.
It made contact with his head, but it mostly made contact with the floor.
Yeah. But I said to Kyle, like, I had to look it up, but I thought we did that review. But then I remembered, oh yeah, this was like a promo for the match with Ric Flair and Terry Funk.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, we were originally going to talk about the Rumble in Chi-Town.
Right.
Of course, can't find footage for that, so at least I found this one.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good matches. There was one in Toronto, and, well, I think they wrestled a few matches in the 90s.
I believe so.
So, yeah, I mean, two of the best wrestlers and one of the best feuds in wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Titles, the Road Warriors against the champions, the Varsity Club. Mike Rotunda and Dr. Death Steve Williams.
yeah, I forgot Steve Williams was part of that.
Yeah.
This was a pretty good match. Obviously, the Road Warriors came in the ring and before the bell beat the shit out of Mike and Steve.
Yeah, it was a back and forth match. Road Warriors at the Doomsday device on Williams, and then you got Nikita Koloff was the referee.
Yeah.
Well, in-ring referee, then you had Nick Patrick on the other side. Eric, you had Kevin Sullivan with Steve and Mike. And then Nikita kicked him out because he jumped up on the apron for something. And then he came back with Dan Spivey, and they pulled out Nikita, were beating up Nikita. And Nick Patrick got involved, and it was an all-out melee a brawl. Road Warriors won by disqualification.
Yeah. And speaking of Kevin Sullivan and Dan Spivey, we had the main event, I guess.
Yeah.
Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner with the First Lady of Wrestling, Missy Hyatt, taking on the Varsity Club, which was what I just said.
Yes.
And this was for the NWA United States Tag Titles.
Yes.
And this was a pretty good match too.
Yeah, I mean, you got Spivey and Sullivan getting a jump on Eddie and Rick, and Spivey's driving Steiner's shoulder into the post and gave him a shoulder breaker, and Rick's trying to get up on the apron and kept getting knocked down, beating up at Kelly and Sullivan and Spivey, and Spivey and Sullivan are working over hot stuff, and then Rick was able to finally get up on the apron, make a tag, but referee didn't see the tag or whatever, and Spivey came in the ring. Referee goes to get Spivey out of the ring. Steiner clotheslines Sullivan, and then they end up protecting the titles.
Yeah. And then you find out from Bob Caudle that, or no, it was Jim Ross,
Yeah.
that Mike and Steve got stripped of the titles
Yeah.
for some reason.
Well, because of beating up, basically beating up the Queen Nikita.
Oh, right. Well, this was a really good show. And I mean, I honestly think that this was, well, I'm going to say WCW, but NWA at its peak.
No, absolutely.
Like WCW in the early 90s was fucking awesome.
No,
I
absolutely.
can't necessarily compare the early 90s to the mid 90s with that, because obviously two different. But I feel like this was a lot more gritty,
Oh, yeah.
in my opinion. But yeah, it's just kind of too bad I missed out when I was little.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, I did watch some of it,
Yeah.
just not enough. But anyways,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the first installment. And we'll do another one eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's next?
Next week, after we have Backlash.
Oh yeah. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So, anyways, this has been another episode of Wheels of Fury. I mean Matt. This is Killer Kyle.
We'll see you next time.
Deuces.
Matching hard, it's a bright spree.